Sawadika, Patria Brandnow.asia, and welcome to this episode of Business Insights. And today I have with me Mr. Etienne. Etienne is doing mergers and acquisition, but before we go into his current line of work today, let's get to know a little bit about you, yeah? So Etienne, where are you from?
I'm French. I had the chance to move to Thailand about 4 years ago due to a job opportunity at the French embassy where I was serving as a trade advisor. And about 2 years ago I moved to GEREJE Corporate Finance and I'm now covering Southeast Asia and Asia in general for my company and I'm based in Bangkok.
Yeah, and besides working on GEREJE and the merger and acquisition division of this company, what else are you involved in?
So I kept very strong ties with the business community here in Bangkok, and I'm still part of the board of the French Tech. So it's some kind of association where we help entrepreneurs help each other. We arrange a few networking events. That's still what I'm doing right now in Bangkok.
Right. Are you guys actively running events right now?
Not right now, but we definitely intend to start again within the coming month.
Okay, excellent. So yeah, let's dive into it. What is M&A?
So M&A is a very generic term that basically involves any kind of financial transaction where businesses and all assets will be consolidated. For an entrepreneur and from a business owner perspective, very simply put, that means selling part or total of your shares to another company.
You were telling me a little bit earlier that the cases for mergers and the cases for acquisitions are very different because most of the cases are.
Yes, I mean, most of the time we use these terms interchangeably. In reality, real mergers are quite rare. In 99% of cases, we are talking about one company acquiring another.
Okay. So is a strategy consultant for M&A the same as a lawyer?
So that's a question that we have quite on a regular basis. M&A advisors really have a distinct role from a legal advisor or even strategy advisor. We are really hands-on consultants in the sense that we help business owners define their strategy where they want to sell their business partially, total, and then very quickly once we have all the documentation, financial documentation prepared, all the necessary documents ready, we select and approach the right buyers, the right potential buyers, and we help the business owners conduct this negotiation process that can be quite long until the closing of the deal, where most of the time the legal advisors will only intervene in the last phases of this process to make sure that everything is fair and square.
Okay, in terms of the contract, right? So let's talk about the impact of the current pandemic now on your industry. Could you share what's been happening?
Well, it's not a surprise that the M&A environment has been very much impacted by the ongoing crisis. Very simply put, a lot of deals have been either put on hold or totally interrupted. That being said, I think there's a few things that stand out in this current environment. Well, due diligence, so the last phases of this process where the companies are being examined very closely to make sure that all the assets are valued properly, that the business is run correctly. So this last phase has been slowed down quite a lot due to very simply the fact that people cannot meet physically anymore. That being said, I think there are a couple of things interesting to say to that regard. The first, from a seller perspective, so people who wanted to sell their business. So some of them find themselves in a situation where they cannot sell anymore because the process has been interrupted. Some of them find themselves in the necessity to sell their business because they don't have the cash to run their operations anymore. So that's more like a distress situation. From a buyer perspective, I think the current context can be quite interesting. A minority of buyers, whether they are strategic corporations, other businesses, or financial players like funds, private equity funds, and the like, have adopted a more aggressive approach, trying to identify companies that they could acquire for basically a better price in this current context. Another side of things is that the current situation has been deteriorating the activities of a lot of business, or even kill a lot of businesses. And that means that the good, solid businesses stand out even more. And I guess a lot of people have been emphasizing the fact that digital was one of the big winners of the ongoing crisis, and I guess it's very much reflected in the M&A activity that is still happening right now. Digital is among the sectors that are very much considered by potential buyers. Mm-hmm.
So then let's look at things from the other side, right? So if you're thinking about selling your business, mm-hmm. right? So what are the steps or the consideration that you would need to think about or undertake as part of this process before approaching a buyer?
Right. So, I mean, I will go quickly over the first scenario where you don't really have a choice. That's unfortunate, but a lot of business owners find themselves in the situation where they have to sell because they have no other means. If you intend to sell, the first thing to do is probably to make sure to clarify your own goals and your own ambition. Selling your business is a life-changing process for a business owner. It can be quite long, quite difficult with a lot of ups and downs, and it requires a lot of commitment from the business owner. So it's not something that you jump in to try or to test the waters or for fun. So first of all, the business owner has to really make sure that they want to sell their business. Mm-hmm. Second, they have also to clarify what is the objective of this possible transaction. If the owners are, let's say, old or tired, or they have other plans for their life, they want to move on with something else, and they're willing to sell 100% of their shares, that's a possibility. Other owners are, let's say, ready to give away a sizable amount of their shares to a strategic or a financial player that will help them develop even more the business. So those are completely different scenarios. One is willing to step away, the other wants to develop the business even more and value the remaining amount of shares that they have, and they will ask the financial help of a strategic or financial player to help accelerate the business.
Okay, so when do you think things will be getting back to normal for you guys?
Good question. We see that to a certain extent things are already getting back to normal. Borders are slowly opening up again, which is, as I mentioned, one of the key conditions for in a lot of transactions for the final due diligence to happen. A lot of physical meetings are necessary, visits of factories, visits of offices, etc. So that's quite positive. That being said, I guess the COVID situation will never be entirely over, in the sense that a lot of buyers have become much more cautious about the way they approach valuation of a business, and probably in the near future we can expect that they will keep this level of cautiousness, taking more time to ask questions to the business owner, to evaluate the business, their assets, basically making sure that they don't make any mistakes.
Kind of like future-proofing your investment.
All right.
So how can the viewer or the audience reach out to you?
Well, we have a very comprehensive website, www.gerejecorpfinance.com, where you can find all my information. I live in Bangkok. I fly around between here, Singapore, Hong Kong, wherever the business needs me to be. But you can easily reach out to me either through the website or on my LinkedIn account, Etienne. Very happy to discuss with business owners with ideas or plans for their business.
Thank you so much for coming in today and giving us all this great information from a buyer and a seller perspective.
My pleasure. Thank you very much for having me.
Okay. Well, we hope that you liked this episode, and of course, naturally, if you'd like to reach out to Etienne, we'll put the information down underneath this link of this video. If you like this video, please give us a thumbs up and subscribe. Thank you and have a great day. สวัสดีค่ะ